The boroughs are New York City. The burbs are everywhere else. Real estate is the ultimate game of risk and reward. It's the biggest investment most people ever make. Fortunes are made over a lifetime and lost in a day. And we're not playing with monopoly money. How do you stay ahead? Who's buying? Who's selling? And why? What do they know? We want the truth. You need an edge. Boroughs and Burbs is your secret weapon, giving you the insider knowledge and strategies you need to succeed in the high-stakes world of real estate. From Palm Beach to Palm Springs, Manhattan to Malibu, we press the experts to expose the pain, find the deals, and occasionally predict the future. That's Boroughs and Burbs, Thursdays, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Because everyone can make money in real estate.
Welcome, everybody. Boroughs and Burbs, Season 5, Episode 203, Pushing Your Clients' Boundaries. We've got Lindsay Biondo-Lugo from Houz of Rebel, and we've got Scott Hobbs of Hobbs Inc. Let me go through some of my opening screens for the people who are watching at home. Boroughs and Burbs, you'll find us at boroughsandburbs.com, and you'll see that we've got 202 episodes, and we'll have this episode up within an hour of wrapping. And you can also find us on YouTube, where you're seeing that most of our episodes are getting now over 5,000 views, which is pretty great. I want to thank our sponsor, sharegracefarms.com. That's where you're going to find Grace Farms teas and coffee, extraordinary teas and coffees that make the world a more just, sustainable, and peaceful place. I want to thank Lisa Ben-Isvy for bringing today's show to us. She, again, is the inspiration. She was the inspiration for a lot of our shows you see on her page. John Barman and Richard Grossman way back when, and several shows more recently. Thank you, Lisa. That's my partner, Roberto Cabrera. Say hello.
Hello, sir.
Where are you? Upper West Side?
I'm on the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
And is the market simmering there?
It is indeed, but that is going to be updated in the next week. So,
all right, I can't wait. It's must read. This is Instagram Engel team. That's me. And I also want to thank Scott Hobbs. You'll find hobbsinc.com. That's where you can find him and his approach, luxury building. And you can see his portfolio is pretty amazing stuff from Greenwich, Connecticut, Bridgehampton, Tarrytown. Well, you see 4 pages of and he's also in Manhattan, so we'll ask him about that. And today, for the first time, Houz of Rebel. We've got Lindsay Biondo-Lugo from Houz of Rebel, and we're going to look at some of the designs in her portfolio. So with that, without further ado, welcome, Lindsay. Welcome, Scott. How's it going?
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Doing great. Always good to see you guys up here on the little screens.
So, Roberto, let's start with you. What does it mean, pushing your clients' boundaries? What do you think we're going to be talking about for the next hour? You know Scott a little bit, and now we've got a designer who's got a business called Houz of Rebel. So, what do you think we're going to be talking about?
Pushing people out of their comfort zone.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about. But in our work, I let people just do that on their own because they give me their budget and their parameters, and they end up just doing it on their own. So it becomes much more organic.
Now, yeah, I would agree with that, Roberto. I think it's the same for design as well. It's more of a process of trust and building this relationship and letting people see that there is this whole world outside of what they typically expect and know.
So Lindsay, let's start with, tell us a little bit about yourself and Houz of Rebel. Give us the elevator pitch.
The elevator pitch. So we do full service residential interior design. I'm based here in New York City. We work in the metro area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the Hamptons. We've done some projects in LA and Miami. And we focus on full service residential, and we focus on pushing our clients to embrace what they would normally consider the norm for design. So we're here to help. That's me. We're here to help inspire and show that, a lot of our clients are bankers, or they work in the IT world, or they're lawyers, or they're doctors, and they don't live in this sort of art world. So we're here to help them realize that when they purchase these big, beautiful homes, there's a lot more, there's endless possibilities that they can do on the inside and the outside.
But on that page, it says rebellious.
Yes.
So there's intention there.
There's intention. Rebellious, meaning we like to embrace things outside of the norm. We like to embrace color. We like to embrace design principles that you might not normally think about, texture, materiality. You know, I see your beautiful background, Roberto, and I see those white walls, and I just want to like get my hands on them and put some color and some wallpaper. I think you would really see a benefit to not only how you live in your space and how it affects your, you know, your psychological viewpoint as well.
And when you see this and you
Yeah.
see the bow tie and the yellow glasses, you say,
I
maybe we need to curate him. Maybe he needs to be a little less of a rebel.
No, it's perfect. I absolutely love it. And your like the vintage car collection, you can see I'm also a fan. I love it. It shows your personality, and I think it's great. You have so much color within your books, and people love to like take the covers off their books and hide, you know, hide the authors and hide the subjects. And it's like, let's show it off. This is, you know, this is what you love. Like, let's incorporate that into your space.
All right. I love the juxtaposition of having you, Lindsay, the rebel, alongside Scott Hobbs, who is, well, Scott, why don't you introduce who you are and what you do?
Sure. So Hobbs Incorporated, we're a third generation family business. We specialize in extreme high-end custom construction in the pretty much the tri-state area plus the Hamptons. And we venture a little bit further north in New York and in Connecticut. But we try to provide almost always we provide an exceptional experience inside of the construction process of turning, you know, hopes and dreams into an actual reality. And one of the things that we're really privileged to be able to do is work with top designers such as Lindsay, who really have great vision. And some of that vision, sometimes we have to rein it in a little bit, but a lot of the time it's trying to figure out how to make that actually work, how to make it come to life and be something that then will last and serve the client for the long haul. And that's a great challenge to have. And it's while we might sometimes protest that this is really hard, it's also really fun. It allows us to express our creativity through the implementation of these dreams.
Do you have any examples that you could give? Because I could pull one out of the dustbin of Hobbs and give an example, but where the designer and the client got super inspired to do something incredibly difficult and brought it to you, and how'd it go?
There's some of our things are more technical on the design side itself, especially in some of the more contemporary and modern homes. There's literally structural things that can't happen. I mean, we've had plans show up with like a floating fireplace, and you're like, no, we don't have the anti-gravity devices. We've got to come up with something to make this look good and come together. There's various incidences where there'll be giant cantilevers on a house, and they don't take into account wind load, temperature changes, snow loads, just all sorts of real technical issues. And so how do we try to go ahead and dial that? You know, first off, we push to figure out how far can we push the envelope responsibly. And we do, and we push hard and we go for something. But occasionally we have to come back and say, you know, we're stuck at this level unless you want to assume the liability. So even something as silly as door heights. I mean, at door heights, at a certain level, people will not warranty the door. And if it needs to go higher than that, we just need to have the conversation with the owner as to who's assuming that risk. And if we think if it's not going to work, we're not going to do it. But there's some stuff that probably will work, but we can't guarantee it. And then it's just trying to make sure they're aware of the risks and the challenges.
So there's some things that money can't solve, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We work in physics, and I don't care how. And again, you can tempt physics with a lot of money, but at a certain point, physics takes over.
That's interesting. I think a contractor hates to see a designer coming, right? Because we just come with all these beautiful ideas and we say, hey, make this happen. I know you can do it. And, it's such an educational process because every project I do, I learn something new. And we appreciate when there's this collaboration between contractor and designer, right? Because we're a team. And if I come to you and I say, I want to do this floating fireplace, Scott, I know there's a way we can make this happen. Like, how do we do this? Might be something that we end up getting done and then becomes this like triumph for the both of us.
It's fun. And again, we get to work with really top people that create some stuff that's special, and we get spoiled by that. Now, of course, I can't afford it in my own house, but it's fun stuff to see in other places. And it's amazing things. And I think that a huge job for Lindsay and the design professionals is to help get people out of their default that if left to their own devices, we'll all probably go back to creating our mother's house. Nothing personal, Susan, but it's one of those that's what we're comfortable with. That's what we grew up with. That's where we'll default to. And the reality is that might not even be us it's likely not us anymore. We're beyond that point. There's other things that we like. And how do we get that confidence, and how do we get those nudges to create something again that's different from our safety default?
So Scott, in some ways it seems like you have to contain the situation as opposed to what we've been talking about, which is like pushing your client's limits. Are there instances for you where you're saying no, but we can actually do this and this and this, and you're expanding on that concept?
Well, and I think a role of the builder, and this is probably an imperfect analogy, but we're not the parents in this process. We're not the people saying yes or no, but we actually kind of are like the godparents. And I know a contractor making a Godfather reference probably brings up Marlon Brando, but we'll skip that part. So, we're good godparents. So the godfather that sits there and gets to advise their godchild under something about it's like, wow, I mean, you're really excited about this. And if that's, going off to do some sort of silly job or a trip or whatever, you're excited about this. And it's not the godparent's job in order to say, you idiot, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Or it contradicts other things you've said. But it is our job to sit there and actually listen, pay attention to what the client's been saying, what are their objectives, and then to provide the honest feedback that it's like, this is going to be a really special detail. It is also going to cost more money and take more time. And if you really want this detail, and from me listening to you, it sounds like you do, I would recommend you do it. And that has to be sincere. I can't be doing this if I'm lying during this process or I'm trying to manipulate, that does not come across right. It has to be really, am I in this for my client in order to get, meet their needs, or am I not? And if I am, that's a very effective way to help the clients really understand that these are the trade-offs and this is what the options are.
Right. And that's such an important conversation for the builder and the designer to have together, right, Scott? Because designer is usually the client's representative, and there can be a lot lost in translation between those conversations. So there's a lot of collaboration that needs to happen on both ends.
Lindsay,
a good pairing of groups is huge. I mean, that team is a very, very important part.
Exactly.
Lindsay and maybe Scott, tell me what innovative and pushing the envelope means in 2025. It occurs to me that when I pick up the magazines, the glossy magazines, a lot of times it's merely, well, let's push the boundaries with color. Let's get out of our comfort zone with color. But it occurs to me in 2025, it means a lot more, that your customers are not just saying, give me a more interesting palette, but they're saying, give me a smart home. Give me a home that is going to adapt to my lifestyle. Give me smart lighting. What are they asking for in 2025 that's really pushing the edges of innovation and design?
I'll let you start, Lindsay.
Yeah, I would say smart technology is definitely up there in terms of incorporating like an integrative plan with lighting, with your audio system, with your AV system, and definitely smart homes. I don't know if you've had a lot of requests for that, Scott.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, smart homes, and that's actually one of those that smart house comes with a warning. You have some people, like my father actually does not have a cell phone. he is not a good smart home candidate. He should have as little smart home as humanly possible. That is not a good idea for him. You have other people who are huge tech wizards, and if it's not on their phone, it doesn't exist in the world. And so how do you integrate the whole house onto the phone that you can control everything? And people are in between, and there's costs associated with it, and there's the functionality, and you know, there's it's tricky that in some cases, like the smart home is awesome for the person who lives there, but if you have a lot of guests, they literally can't function in your house without without having someone walk around with them trying to figure out how to turn apps on and off.
I encountered that yesterday with a landlord who owns 35 rentals, and I said, "Why are these all ordinary light switches?" And he said, "I can't add smart technology because," he says, "nobody knows how to use it." And I said, "What do you mean? It's 2025." And he says, I said, "You can't even install Lutron lights?" And he says, for me, a smart home means that it'll have a sensor and it'll turn the light on in the dark hallway automatically, but don't require the entire house to be turning on and off, the music on and off, the lights." He said it's way above the capability of the average user. We're not there yet. So are you finding that people are asking for, what are they asking for, Lindsay? What are they asking for, Scott? Are they asking for cutting edge beyond the comfort zone?
I don't know if they're necessarily asking for beyond. I think it ends up being a conversation, right, that we have at the beginning, and this presentation of ideas from our end and probably from Scott's end as well. And, this presentation of, look, yes, you have this idea of doing this beautiful lighting plan in your living room, and you want to be able to control it on your phone or access, security for your TV or your door from your phone when you're driving into your driveway. So how can we develop that in a way that's not just going to be a smart app? Can you control it through the rest of your home? Can you control it from a certain, amount of feet away? Let's really explore all of the options. And that's when, a relationship or a conversation with somebody like Scott really comes in handy, because you present these options and these capabilities. And then we say, okay, let's take it from here and let's really roll with this and see what we can do with it.
Yeah, I'm looking at your portfolio now, and it occurs to me that I want those plants to be self-watered, and there should be
Yeah.
technology. I want lighting to be able to be dimmed and maybe automated, so I can just set the mood, and it knows, that kitchen doesn't need to be 1,000 watts all the time. Yeah, really interesting range of designs here. And so why don't you tell us about some of your favorites?
Yeah. So as you're scrolling, that right there is CC Restaurant. That's a restaurant in East Hampton. That was one of our first commercial projects, which was a lot of fun because we got to integrate this sort of European La Dolce Vita theme concept to the restaurant. It was bare bones when we started. It was an old restaurant that had been abandoned for years. So it was really a great opportunity
You did a great job. I've had a bunch of drinks there.
Have you? Oh, great. Thank you.
Beautiful
Yeah.
sunset at that place.
Oh my gosh, gorgeous sunset, gorgeous views, just, and we wanted the environment to feel relaxing and to feel inviting and to feel casual, but also elevated and refined, and, just sort of the Hampton standard, but set it apart from maybe every other restaurant that and have been to in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
And so we did that by incorporating certain color palettes, and, of course there's certain standards when you're working in the Hamptons, right? You need teak furniture, wood accents, and those are all beautiful things. But how can we incorporate those pieces in a way that's really going to stand out? So let's put lighting that's special. Let's use this really bright color palette and use florals and incorporate things that you might not necessarily think about.
Very cool.
It looks very happy, which is a huge thing.
Yes. If you scroll up to the top, John, there's our artistry and Tribeca project, which we just completed. It was a lot of fun. This space had a ton of natural light, and we wanted to really embrace this client's desire to create a sophisticated feel for their home. They have 3 little ones, and what you don't see in the pictures is, like, where all the toys are stacked. Um, but they wanted a space, they wanted their home to feel refined and, a space that the family can relax and enjoy. And they had this requirement for a white sofa. So, okay, when clients come to us and they tell us that, fine, we'll incorporate a white sofa, but how can we push past that, right? So we really had fun here with integrating wallpaper. We did this like beautiful mural effect that you see carries throughout the back of the bookcase, and it's integrated into this custom bar cabinetry that we had built in. And we also did wallpaper in the bedrooms, and we just wanted to incorporate a lot of like sculptural form through the decorative objects. Typically you see a bookcase and you think, okay, I'm going to stack it with books. I'm going to put a few of my favorite trinkets and I'll be done. But there's so much more to the creative process when it comes to styling. So we really had fun incorporating a lot of their personality. This client happens to own a restaurant that's in Soho. So we wanted to make sure that his bar was reflective of his lifestyle and their music choices. He was a big Elvis fan, so we made sure that we highlighted that in the pieces. So just making sure to you know incorporate their personality throughout the space. And then they also had this great outdoor balcony, which was a fun opportunity to just have a pop of color, um, while utilizing this tiny space and really making it a functional area.
Very cool.
Thank you.
It's neat.
So what's the trend these days? Either of you want to tackle what's the trend? I mean, and who's buying? Who are the clients? Are we seeing that they're coming out of one sector? Meaning, are they young? Are they older? Do they have multiple houses? Or are they trying to figure out how to live in smaller spaces? What are the trends?
Yes,
All of the above?
pretty much. I don't know, Lindsay, are you seeing any particular, I mean, you're closer to the front end of things.
As far as trends, as far as design, there's definitely, I don't know who on here is like Pinterest people or Instagram people, but if you go onto these sites, there's this sort of cottage core, Nancy Myers, grandma chic, as they're calling it, trend. And it's really just reflecting like the classic beauty of design principles, right? So we're really just bringing back these classic elements that have never gone away, but people are just sort of realizing are a genius way to, incorporate some personality and character into their home. So like, you're seeing lots of florals everywhere now. You're seeing people embracing wallpaper again, which is great. I mean, for us, it never went away, but people are slowly dipping their toe back into the water when it comes to these things.
But selectively, it occurs to me that none of us want to live in the house we grew up in, but we want a curated experience. We want to pick the best of our memories and put it into a new and modern
Yeah.
context.
Yes, and that's something that we deal with all the time, because especially when you're dealing with families and couples, the husband likes modern and the wife wants it to be a little bit more reflective of her child. So how do we compromise? How do we meet in the middle? And it's really just an immersive visual experience. We come prepared with samples galore, and we say, okay, you know, like the Tribeca project. Let's start with a neutral base. We have a white sofa. How can we push the boundaries and have a little fun here? Let's try wallpaper. Here are some samples. And then people realize, there's all of these options that maybe they never even knew existed.
No, and it's so important to be able to let people see what the choices are. Very few people have great vision in trying to interpret. And quite frankly, even under professionals, we don't necessarily have the best vision as to what it's actually going to look like. I mean, so it's not unusual for when we're doing paint samples, we'll get 30 or 40 2x3 or 3x3 pieces of sheetrock, and we'll put the actual paint samples on those pieces. And then you get to walk around in the different rooms. You get to see an actual size on them. You can put it on the shaded side, put it on the light side. How does this tie together with this other color? And so there's a whole series of things that we can do to help the people actually see it. And if they can see it, then it's much easier to say yes. And we do that across the board with all different types of samples. I will say, like, 3D printing has provided an extra way in order to get some samples done quicker. Instead of having to cut knives for a profile, you can actually put it into a printer and the next day get something out at very economic, at dollars, not a couple $100 for a sample.
Yes, that's like amazing if you're doing custom carpentry in a bathroom, in the kitchen. That's a perfect opportunity to embrace 3D. I need to get more into that.
So how about, talk to me about supply chain. Are we past the pain point of COVID where supply chain is not a big deal anymore? We're way past COVID at this point, and yet I still hear both the builders and the designers talking about supply chains as being a pain point. How come?
Yeah. It's definitely still a pain point. I deal with long lead times for custom furniture all the time, but I will say that it's definitely gotten better recently. So before we were looking at 12 to 24 months, now we're looking at 6 to 8 months. So for me, that's a major win, and I'll take it. There's also now tariffs are a huge new problem, right? That we have to think about presenting to our clients. We have to have the discussion with them at the beginning and help them understand that these are costs that are new to all of us. They're new to the industry, and unfortunately, there's no way around them. So we need to figure out a way to present that to them in a way that makes them feel comfortable. And most people are very understanding. They understand that this is the economy. This is the financial standpoint of where we are. And okay, I'm going to have to pay. It's going to be another $20,000 line item on my budget at the end of the day. But once knowing that from the beginning, I guess it hurts a little bit less.
Are the
All right,
tariffs segmented to, for example, furniture or wallpaper or paint, or is it just kind of all over the board because things are coming just from different places?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's right now I'm seeing it mostly in furniture and like large goods. I don't see it so much in soft goods or textiles or paint yet. But who knows? I'm just trying to be we're just trying to understand that it could lead that way. So we just have to keep ourselves educated on it, and also the clients. And I think builders are feeling it too. I'm sure Scott would agree. I know, like, previously in the past couple of years, wood was like really challenging to get your hands on, and then lead time was crazy. Steel as well. I have a project where we've waited almost 6 months for a couple of pieces of steel. So
at what point does Scott Hobbs tell you, I'm not waiting any longer? I told this client I was going to be done in 20 to 24 months on his $20 to $24 million project, and I don't have the luxury of stopping work to wait for this deal. Find a substitute. Either the client or the builder must be having that conversation with you all the time.
Well, this gets back to that radical honesty with everybody and trying to enforce that along the chain. So not surprisingly, some people sit there and we've ordered something and the tariff comes up and the guy goes, okay, well, I got to raise my price 10%. And our response back is, prove it. So where is the tariff? Where's the bill? How does this go? Wait a minute. The old tariff was actually 8. Now you're saying it's 10 and you're trying to charge me 10, but that doesn't work. And wait, you had a whole bunch of labor to install. You don't get to raise your whole price by 10. That doesn't work. So there's a lot of like trying to make sure we're protecting our clients' interests. And then toward the client, it's an update, and up front we tell everybody this is a volatile period, and things that what I tell you today, the government may decide is incorrect tomorrow, and then we're going to have to go ahead and shift. And hopefully we'll be able to figure out a good substitution, but we may be faced with a choice where it's like, well, if you want this, here's the consequences. Do you want that, or do we want to try to do a trade-off and find a different product that may be domestically available or more readily available? And so it's those honest discussions with the clients. And ideally you have those discussions way up front, so they're ready for it. You don't want to have to show up and deliver bad news out of nowhere. You want to really make sure that everybody gets the process that you're dealing with. And believe me, Lindsay and I in our entire industries, we don't want this. This is not a good thing for us, but we will look out for our clients' best interests, and we'll try to represent them and give them those options.
Yeah. And to that point, like, for example, I had a project about 6 months ago where they didn't want to pay the tariff costs. So we said, okay, how do we pivot here? I think we ended up resorting to some restoration hardware. And what ended up happening, they were not happy with the results. So we actually went back to our original custom pieces, and we ended up reordering them. And we had the conversation, and they were, open to accommodating those costs. And now we're back on track to the original vision.
I mean, I try to, one place where I will push the clients, and again, under bad examples that have something that hopefully provides some meaning. I'm old enough to remember when it was actually optional to get the intermittent wipers on your car. And there's something like, it's like $150 back when that meant something. You're like, well, why would I do that or whatever? But the moment you have intermittent wipers, the odds that you could ever be happy not having them is zero. I mean, every time you'd have to switch that thing on and off, you'd just go crazy. And that's sort of what I use for the clients, is that, I mean, if this is something that's important to you, let's make sure we do it. I mean, pay the price now. It'll be forgotten in the future, but I don't want you walking up to the handle every time, your door handle, and every time you touch it, you go, I should have waited. I should have done something else.
Right.
We want to try to avoid those situations.
What is the modern day equivalent? I'll go first. When I'm in bed and I'm ready to go to bed, I say, "Hey Siri, turn off all the lights in the master," and it happens. Then I say, "Turn off the TV," and it happens. But I got to get out of bed and I got to go downstairs to turn off the porch light, which otherwise my daughter is going to say, "Hey, why is it so bright outside my window?" So it's getting there, but getting all my systems to talk to each other is not working. I want to be able to so I want voice control on the basics. I want to be able to turn off the lights when I'm going to bed.
I just use the clapper.
As a realtor, I'm going to tell you that I have sometimes counted somewhere between 60 and 80 light switches that I have to turn off in a house before I leave the door. And I think that's the modern day equivalent of the intermittent wiper. Once you have the ability to control all the lights in your house when you leave it, just with one switch or one command, you never want to go back.
Well, I talk to clients, and some of our clients, not surprisingly, just like everyone else, are very OCD. And I ask them the fact, it's like, if you want to, if it will bother you that if you look out your window and you see a light on in the pool house and you can't go to sleep because that light's on, and forget about, I mean, this is an LED light bulb that burns like 2 cents of electricity over a 24-hour period, and it's never going to burn out. If that bothers you, you need to do the whole house system. There's no, you can't substitute. And by the way, if you have a giant house, you may need to do the same thing.
Can I ask something? I've been in a couple of houses that were renovated maybe 8 years ago. They have these systems in place, and there's pockets of things that no longer talk to this. And the technology is going so fast that they bring somebody in, they're like, "This is old. You've got to replace all of this. And this is no longer talking to this and talking to that." And it's not like the internet's down and you can just go to to data, for your phone. It's a problem, and it becomes very expensive. And if, let's just say, the grid kind of goes down or the power goes down, nothing's talking to anything. What's the backup on all of that? That's what scares me about some of these systems.
Well, some of this is, how well does your 10-year-old phone communicate with the web today? Not very well. I mean, the technology continues to move on, But these are discussions that you have to actually plan a technological upgrade, and you understand that you've got maybe a 10 to 20-year window before you're going to have to really upgrade and change out each of the pieces. Luckily, these days, a lot of the changes are better. I mean, the systems themselves are actually better than what they used to be. There is the issue. A lot of the lighting systems are pretty basic and they will actually work. The more sophisticated you get, though, the more likely there are going to be things that just, again, that full communication becomes much, much, much harder. And that's where, again, talking to the clients, where what's your objective and goal? What's your budget? Or, what's going to bother you down the road? Is it going to bother you more that you can't do something, or will it bother you more that you have to pay to upgrade to make it happen? And for some of the stuff, there isn't a great backup for the system. And when it goes down, either you're choosing to go electric and high tech, or you're choosing to go analog or I should say digital and high tech, or you're choosing to go analog and you actually have the switch that goes on and off. But with that switch, you lose functionality. And so that's a personal choice.
Yeah. Scott, something I like to do, like, for example, garage doors, I always make sure there's a requirement for a backup switch. So if you do go off the grid, if all of, your this doesn't work, your lifeline doesn't work anymore, there's always that manual option to get in and out of your house. And we try to apply that to any other system throughout. Windows, probably lighting is not the best option, but your security systems, your AV. So that's always a question that we ask when we're speccing with our vendors.
It's actually one of those pushing things that there's more and more electronic locks on residential houses. And right now we're still kind of at a tricky point where the really cool, nice looking ones don't function well.
Yeah, they don't work.
Really clunky big ones, they work great.
Yeah.
And so this is a tough decision on some stuff where it's sort of like, wait, I'm not. And if you think also about an electronic lock, if you're putting that on a house down on the waterfront, like the house, I'm in theory sitting at right now, it's exposed to salt water, it's exposed to humidity, it's exposed to sunlight, it gets hot, it gets cold. I mean, everything's expanding and contracting, and the environment's trying to destroy the lock. And so it's a maintenance issue if you choose to take this convenience of having a digital lock versus having a keyed or analog type lock. And once more, these are discussions. And as we as builders or as designers learn, our clients are not shy about telling us when things don't work. So we learn the lessons about what works and doesn't work. And then we try to prevent and help our clients to prevent those same situations for them.
Exactly.
I've got an example, East Hampton Hotel. I want you to tell me about this, because I think that what's interesting to me is the restaurant and now the hotel out in the Hamptons. These aren't just personal choices. Oh, I like this color, I like that color. It's a business. These are businesses, and they've got to, I guess, your design choices are going to have a lot to say about whether they can fill the rooms, fill the seats, be successful. I mean, restaurants and now hotels, they need to be up to date in order to fill up. So talk to us about the design challenge here at this Hamptons Hotel.
Yeah, such a great point. This was one of my first commercial projects. So learning that the design choices really do affect, who's booking these rooms and their end revenue at the end of the year. It's a lot of pressure. So, it was really important to have lengthy discussions with the owners. These particular owners were very disconnected from the job. They were very disconnected from the project. They said, look, we just want to feel like we are in Europe, and we feel like that's going to be what pulls everybody in, because it's not what you see in every other hotel out in the Hamptons. But we do want to make it relatable to the people that live here and to the people who frequent the area. So let's keep that style, but make it feel unique, make it feel personalized to East Hampton Hotel. And so we also had a time challenge here. We had to get this hotel up and running in 6 months, which is like basically impossible. I'm not even sure how we did it. Yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah. I lived there. I basically lived on site, and we pulled it out. So, it was a lot of using domestic resources of people that had pieces that were available, and that a lot of times can be constricting, right? Because you don't get to think outside of the box as far as custom carpentry and custom pieces. So we really had to make sure we were making an impact. And I think we really pulled it together in like this beautiful, simplistic way, but also just showcasing like different style, different color, different texture throughout each room. Each room had its own concept. So I didn't want somebody to feel like they were walking into the same space throughout the hotel. So we wanted to make sure each room had, an underlying characteristic that unites, the hotel as a whole, but that each room had a special experience for each person that was staying in it.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
looking at gray washed floors to the right, and I'm looking at totally different kind of wood floors, on the left, yet with gray carpet. I mean, yeah,
Right.
you stayed within a unified muted palette, a
Mhm.
beachy palette, a black and white and wood palette, and yet each room is completely different.
Exactly.
Wow.
Elements like a cowhide rug, that isn't something that you would typically see in a beach house.
New. Very, very edgy. Yeah.
How
What a
many
re-
rooms were in this hotel? Just curious.
I think it was 16. This was a few years ago. I think it was
Mm.
16 individual cottages.
Mm.
So each cottage had a bedroom suite, a bathroom, an ensuite bathroom, and some of them had small kitchenettes. So it was quite the challenge, to say the
Wow.
least. Yeah.
And all for $100 a night. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I wish.
I mean, I would imagine I'm looking at that white chair and I'm thinking, on the one hand, you say, well, I'd like to go with this white palette because that's something we're doing. On the other hand, it's tough to keep white clean in my
I
own
had the
home.
same thought.
Yeah.
You were scrolling through there that I have to ask.
Yeah, I have to ask about white chair, and because it's got to work for the 30th customer and the 50th customer, it still better be white. Otherwise,
Yeah.
the design falls apart.
And that's actually in one of the general areas. So that's a
Mm.
space that people are sitting at more often. So that chair is seeing a lot of action. It's a performance fabric. Performance fabric has come such a long way. I think people used to think of it, oh, okay, if I get a pen mark, I'll be able to take it off. But if I spill a glass of wine, that won't come out. Now there's been so much innovation within performance fabric that you don't have to worry about that. You
I
can
mean,
wear
white
this.
sofas, white
I
chairs,
Yeah.
know.
they're all over the place.
Yeah, and that was a conversation that we had with the owners at the beginning because we wanted to do the white. We wanted to incorporate the white. So we told them, listen, this is how we're going to make it happen. It's all about performance fabric.
Is that expensive, the performance factor?
It's usually a little bit more expensive, yes.
But that's what we mean, I think, when we say technology. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to be electronics anymore to be the smart home. The smart home is the home that I don't have to launder and clean and maintain at quite the deal. Especially, right, Scott, if I own several homes, I just don't have time to maintain them. It's basically being starved of time, not money, and my attention.
Well, there's also we're in a pretty cool time that a lot of the really neat, the quote neat products out there are actually practical and work. Just talking today about real marble versus some of the synthetics. Well, I mean, we'll call them tile or porcelain based, but like we did a big, really nice master bathroom, and it was all slab tiled as opposed to marble. So it's substantially less weight. We actually control much more what the veining is. If one of them breaks, I can get the exact same one back in order to put in its place. They actually have you can book match them, or they have ones that vary, so it looks even more natural. It's a lot less expensive. It's easier to do. And like for stones, there's always this big problem that, well, what type of shampoo do you use? Oh, well, that might actually take off the finish here. Or what, you use that makeup on this counter. Oh my Lord, that'll eat right through it. And so and with the natural stone, you don't even really know exactly what you're getting, because it's not as if, if you say statuary white, that may or may not actually be that. And it may have been something 20 years ago that's different today, whereas these tiles we can do something different with. And so just like with the fabrics, I mean, it used to be you could only have this type of fabric. Now it's like, well, let's take some choices. And if you're a mature couple living without kids and you don't have grandkids coming over, you can go for some stuff that doesn't have to be as durable. If you've got a young family and 2 dogs and people coming over all the time, get the performance fabric. Don't mess around on this. And same on floor finishes, wallpapers, all of these things. You can make the choices as to, you don't have to sacrifice the elegance anymore, or as you don't have to sacrifice as much elegance to go for some products that are really practical.
Right. And that's why it's important to have that conversation in the beginning, right? To find that happy balance. I love using marble and natural stone in a kitchen because it's just a beautiful look that is going to be hard to replicate by a 3D printer or, any of these, the quartzites. They're all beautiful and they all have a functionality, but there's just a certain appeal to having real marble in your kitchen. But to your point, in a bathroom, I would say, okay, if that's the look that we want to achieve here throughout the entire bathroom, let's talk about doing a tile. Let's talk about doing a porcelain. It's going to save you on money, and it's going to save on efficiency for sure. So you got to just to strike that balance.
And you can end up, and some of this is also prioritizing, where it's like, even if you say, no, in my master, I have to have real stone, that's great. But let's say in the kids' bathrooms, it's like, no, I want something that's absolutely looks nice, but it's going to be much harder to destroy.
Exactly.
Or if you have a guest bedroom or a maid's quarters or something, you can now end up getting, again, a higher level of elegance without the same price premium for something else.
Right. Absolutely.
Both of you, what is the one thing in your respective specialty that you are, at least now, I'm sure it changes all the time, where that you guys are saying, you're going to thank me later. You don't even know that you want this, but you want this, in the sense of pushing them to, you will thank me later because you need this.
Everything. I think probably when thinking about exteriors, like jumping out of interiors and going into exteriors, metal roofing has come a long way. I don't know if you agree, Scott, but that's something that I think a lot of people before, it was very poo-pooed, and now it's really come a long way. We are using it on I would say like 4 out of 5 renovation jobs right now in your area, Scott. And I think there's so much more efficiency that the clients are going to get from doing like a typical shingled roof, that is characteristic to the area. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but that's the trend that we've seen, with some materiality for exterior.
What is metal material? What is it?
Oh,
They're various sheet metals. It's various sheet metals with finishes on them that are very durable finishes. I was trying to think which one, John. You found one already with the metal roof. A lot of this, what I would say that people would thank us for is if they listen to us under water management, and this is exterior water management. There's some designs that try to push the boundaries of eaves and collecting water in gutters and in doing just how water flows around and out of the house. And there's some things like if you have an elevated terrace, stone terrace, you might put in this little slot drain. Well, we've banned the slot drains. It's great. It's a minimal look and everything, but you can't actually go ahead and service them. You can't make them function. And of course, if you're in the Northeast, you're probably going to get a leaf in there. And if you can't get the leaf out, that's a big problem. So managing that water part, I think us trying to go ahead and really talk. I think what they would value the most is, again, listening to their professionals, and especially if it's a good team that ends up pushing each other. So you should not just listen to the contractor, and you shouldn't just listen to the design team. You want to actually listen to the conversation and really hear both sides of it, so that you can get that again, a house that's more than just that one, John, the Chris Modern has a metal roof on it. But so you want to listen to the team sort of go ahead and talk together about it and figure things out. I mean, under some of the splurges, I would say that in the Northeast, if you can do a radiant heating system under any north-facing porches. So let's say that the main elevation of your house faces out to the south to capture all the sun, yet your front doors is facing north. We know that, like, during 3 months of the year, a little bit of rain means that you're now going to have an icy walkway, and you will never get rid of the snow. And so having something like that is good. Now, going for a full exterior radiant heating system, very, very, very expensive. But doing little isolated spots can end up really being convenience savers and make people enjoy their house more.
That's great.
And Roberto, I think on the interior front is really just diving into your floor plan, and understanding if you're looking for more of an open space or that closed space feel, and saying, okay, you're really going to thank me later if we take down these two walls and combine what used to be your old dining room and create this big, beautiful new kitchen / pantry. And then the dining room now has its own space. So really just diving into the, endless possibilities of what a floor plan can ultimately become.
Yeah.
And this is where this good debate comes along. The open floor plan is awesome. Make sure you can shut things off to separate sound, because occasionally there's been the house that has the full open floor plan, like from basement up to the upstairs, and you have 3 kids of differing ages. And so the parents are actually trying to be on the main floor while the kids are screaming and yelling downstairs, and someone's trying to sleep upstairs. And it's like, we got to shut this off a little. And
no sound buffer at all.
To show that too.
Yeah.
COVID helped to go ahead and say that, look, we need to isolate spaces a little more, but it's great using pocket doors and Harmon type hinges and hiding doors, that you can have this open floor plan that then you can very elegantly shut off a couple pieces and allow everyone to actually be themselves in the house without worrying about someone saying, quiet, shut up, you're making too much noise. So you can get the best of all worlds.
Right. And your floors, fixing your floors. If you're renovating your floors, you always want to, not always, but most circumstances, you're going to want to also fix your subfloors, because that's what's going to contribute to the squeaking, and wind draft comes through your subfloors. So that's a really big thing that people don't.
Wait. You're a designer and you're talking to me about squeaky floors? Talk to me about this. This is very refreshing. Wait, you're thinking about the structure underneath the floors.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that hotel, at that restaurant.
Sure, because if I spec a beautiful new floor and I don't think about the consequences of the installation, then sure, it might look wonderful, but the client's, coming to me 6 months later saying, Lindsay, I'm having all these issues. What's going on? Is it the floor that you picked out? And it most always falls back on the designer, right? Because it was essentially our idea. So we need to make sure that we're thinking about all of the potential issues that could arise with any sort of materiality.
It falls back on the broker. How did you sell me this place?
Okay, I'll take that.
But I think that's fair. I live in a 200-year-old house, and when asked the question, why'd you buy it? Well, I fell in love with these. I mean, and not much is 200 years old, but the floors often are what they fall in love with. They fall in love with some of the moldings and the floors. And so when you, Lindsay and Scott, tell me that those floors have already been sanded down for the last time, that there's not enough left, and that you'd be much better off, John, replacing the floors over here and there. But it's why I fell in love with the house. So then I must ask you, well, can you replicate that look I fell in love with?
Right, right. And I'll say, sure. I'll say absolutely. And we'll figure out a way to make it happen, whether it's, if you have to replace all of those floors all over again, we'll just get a similar looking floor. Like, it's possible.
Scott took me to an A-list actor had a house, and I'm going back to 15, 20 years now, but he took me through it, and he pointed at these reclaimed antique floors, and he said, you know, John, well, I mean, do you want to tell the story? Do you remember which one I'm talking about?
I do. The flooring guy who was a master at his trade, and luckily we have these guys there. He and the owner, as they went through the discussions, it's pretty much the floor guy had said, it's like, so you kind of want, like, if it's an old park bench and there was two guys that used to go ahead and get there every day, like, you know, throwing peanuts to the pigeons, you know, like when they got up, there'd be like little rub bit, you know, there'd be rub marks kind of where they always sat. That's what I kind of want to recreate. And that's the part where the floor guy's like, I got it. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know how to make this work. And so luckily, again, we have access to people who can. There was another house where we ended up, I got to go to a Christmas party afterwards, and nobody knew me, and so I just got to listen. And everybody at the party was going around going, well, this was saved, that was saved. You can see the old part. You can tell that. It's like, it was all new. We had to disassemble everything. It all had to go away. But we ended up making it look old, and then meanwhile rejuvenating it and making it better.
That's awesome.
I love it. I mean, I don't even know if we need a final question. I was going to ask about that balance of honoring the client's vision and your responsibility to elevate it. But I think you really kind of touched on it with your floor anecdote and your squeaky floor anecdote, where, you know, we try and get into the client's head on what it is they're trying to achieve, and then we make it happen. And sometimes it's not a straight line. Sometimes we have to give them new materials, not real marble, not a slate roof that they thought they wanted, not the old floors they thought they wanted, but elevate them to something better than they even knew possible.
The one caveat is that ultimately it is the client's house, and they need to advocate. We as professionals, we have a responsibility to push them to get better, but also a responsibility to actually listen. And if we're going too far, we've got to back off and make sure that we get them their house, not one that we're dreaming about ourselves.
Right.
But we fail them if we don't push them to go a little bit beyond, or at least give them the options.
It's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
I want to take us through. I want to thank you, Scott Hobbs, Hobbs Inc. One more time. This has been great. You're a regular on the show, but I always learn something new. So thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you, Houz of Rebel, Lindsay Biondo-Lugo, Houz of Rebel, and you can find her at houzofrebel.com.
Nailed it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
the Engel team. There's Roberto. The market is simmering Cabrera. Thank you, Lisa Ben-Isby, who was muted for the hour, but thank you for coming, and thank you for inspiring this show. Thank you to Grace Farms, the Grace Farms Foundation, and Grace Farms Teas and Coffee. And we are Boroughs and Burbs. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you
Great as
next
always.
week.